Much like today, with the to go with a lot of humidity, it'll be a mix of sign of clouds and a 20% chance of rain. Hot and dry until Friday, with highs in the mid to upper 90s. Friday, we get back to those afternoon and evening shower expectations. Brian Leonard with your on point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264BF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Please press button now. No, number one.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Goldblum, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sports Talk Media Network. On a Monday night, the Monday after a wild, crazy weekend. Lots of great stuff to talk about from the weekend, both on and off the fields and the courts and the raceways and everything else going on this past weekend. Our phone number is 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery. Lucky number for you to reach us here tonight on Sports Talk. Plenty of time for your phone calls as we go through the night, though we will hear from Yerrick Stoneman, the former head basketball coach at Ridgeview and G.G. Jackson's former coach. He's now at Oak Hill Academy. We've got him lined up for about 6:35. He's going to be on a recruiting call at 6 o'clock. If everything works out time-wise, then he'll hit us up about 6:35. But I thought it'd be kind of interesting to hear from him and his thoughts about what G.G. Jackson can bring to the Gamecock basketball program. Of course, as you know, over the weekend, he announced his reclassification to 2022. He announced his commitment to USC, and today, South Carolina put out an official release that G.G. Jackson had signed with the Gamecocks, Chris. So, Gamecock fans right now, they are walking on cloud nine with some of the athletes they've got on campus, from G.G. Jackson to Spencer Rattler to Aaliyah Boston. They're feeling good about themselves. A little cocky over there in cocky land.
As well they should. And a terrific signing over the weekend. And I saw a couple of things. I don't know what kind of player G.G. Jackson will be. I've got a pretty good idea. He's going to be a major impact type player for the Gamecocks. But I will say this. I think I understand how good he is by the reaction of the North Carolina fans when he pulled his commitment from them and then signed with the Gamecocks. You can get a pretty good gauge as to how important a signee potentially could be by what the opposing fans feel of him when he or she doesn't sign with their team. And the amount of grief that there's now going towards G.G. Jackson from the from North Carolina fans. And I'm not sure I can blame them after getting virtually toe dragged by every sport that Carolina has played against them this season. I think I can understand. And then the one sport, if you're North Carolina, you feel like you should have a leg up. And let's face it, I don't think G.G. Jackson is going to make the Gamecocks in Lamont Paris this coming season better than what North Carolina has. I still think the Tar Heels are the team to beat going into next season. But with that being said, you get a pretty good gauge when you see what opposing fans do and the reaction they've had about him not signing with them, that he's going to play on a team that's only going to the NIT and we're going to still be competitive. You get the sense that Tar Heel fans have not real happy with what's going on in Columbia right now.
Yeah. I mean, the Gamecocks have had the upper hand head-to-head with the Tar Heels in most of the sports they've played recently. But look, North Carolina basketball is still a cut above. North Carolina basketball is still Tar Heel basketball, and they've got many returning parts from last year's runner-up team, national runner-up team, and they've added some impressive parts. And the G.G. Jackson piece would have been another nice piece for them. But for South Carolina, it's a huge piece. But here is where you got to think about a basketball team and how you put a basketball team together. And South Carolina's got 8 newcomers along with a new coaching staff all together for the first time. You got some guys coming back from last year, but again, everybody's under the umbrella of a new coaching staff. It's just not that easy. It's just not that easy, I don't think, to come together in such a short amount of time with so many different pieces. many of whom will be moving on somewhere else after this 1 year. They'll either be out of eligibility or, in the case of G.G. Jackson, he hopes, and I'm sure the Gamecocks do as well, that he can move on to the NBA as a lottery pick, because that means he will have had an excellent year.
Sure.
But, how can Lamont Paris and his coaching staff take all these new pieces who've never played together and in about 2 months mesh together? When I say 2 months, I'm talking about the practice period of, they work out in September and then much of October and start playing in November. In about 2.5 months, how do you mesh all those different pieces together? The beautiful thing about teams that grow up together, like that USC Final Four team, that team grew up together, and you had 4 core veterans who played a lot of basketball hours together so that they knew each other's move silently. They just knew, Thornwell just knew where Notice was going to be, or where Silva might be, or where Mackey might be, or, and they knew it, or Dozier, they knew it instinctively. How is this team going to instinctively learn each other's moves and not be robotic out there because they're not used to playing with each other very much?
It's a terrific question, and unfortunately, that's going to be the new era of college basketball, isn't it? I mean, Kentucky has figured out a way. John Calipari has made that work. The one and done. He has cut his teeth and made his career on bringing in a brand new program and brand new set of players every single season. And that's what Lamont Paris is going to have to do this season. And the question is, what does G.G. Jackson bring to the table that can fit with, Michi and Ibrahim Adiba and some of the other guys that they have brought in the transfer portal? And Phil, I don't know the answer to that. Your poll question, I think, this week is really, really fascinating for me. For Gamecock fans, what is your expectation now of this team after what you saw over the weekend with the number one player in the country deciding to decommit from North Carolina and sign with the Gamecocks? You can't possibly expect them to make the Final Four, but that is a choice. But is this expectations-wise, do they have to now make the NCAA tournament to make this experiment work? And Phil, if they only end up in the NIT, and I say only, that's still to me a very good step up from where the program is. Or just a winning record. Does that move the program forward? Because you're only going to have Jackson for a year. So what do you do with him that builds the program going into next season and the following season and the season after that? Can they springboard off of them, which was the knock on Frank Martin? As much as he brought to the USC program, once they made the Final Four, they never were able to capitalize on that. Can Lamont Paris capitalize on having a player like G.G. Jackson take that team to maybe a tournament appearance this year, and then maybe take it to a round of 32 appearance, and then an Elite Eight type appearance, and maybe a Final Four appearance in the next couple of years?
Yeah, the hope is that getting a guy like Jackson will help you land other type talent.
Right,
but then again, basketball players, they know the deal, and they know that Jackson will only be there 1 year. So if you're in the 23 class, for example, unless South Carolina makes a deep run and, shows that maybe they're going to have some staying power, but if they're going to be rebuilding after this year, I'm not so sure it's going to be that great lure that you might think otherwise. If it was a 3 or 4 year commitment, this looks like a 1 year commitment. You mentioned the poll question of the week on our Twitter at SportsTalkSC. So the question is your expectations for the season now that G.G. Jackson is a Gamecock. 433 votes in this day alone, and 44.6%. Your choices are Final Four, NCAA tournament, NIT, and winning record. 44.6% say now their expectations will be the NCAA tournament. 39.3%. Not all that optimistic, just a winning record. 12.9% say the NIT will be the expectation. 3.2%, they probably voted for Vanderbilt to win the SEC. 3.2% have the Gamecocks, their expectations, the Final Four. So, a fun little poll question to kick around. If you haven't had a chance to vote, make sure you do so on our Twitter at SportsTalkSC. A lot of other news to talk about. We'll go through some of the other news notes of the day, and I mentioned who we will be talking to hopefully in a little bit and find out more about G.G. Jackson from his former head basketball coach over at Ridgeview. We'll hear from more SEC and ACC football coaches as we move through some of the archived audio from last week. And, of course, on Wednesday, we'll be over at the South Carolina Coaches for Charity which will be on the Furman University campus this year. We'll be there for that, and we're lining up some of those coaches to be on with us live on Wednesday nights. We look forward to that. And then on Thursday, it'll be the Shane Beamer Media Golf Tournament, and that'll be at Cobblestone out in Blythewood. And then he'll do a media session after that, and he'll have his coordinators there as well. In fact, maybe all the coaches will be there, at least the coordinators, maybe some of the others. So, yeah, I think the majority of the assistant coaches will be there. So we'll have all that for you as well over the next couple of days. So we got plenty of that coming your way here on Sports Talk. Our phone number, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery. Lucky number if you'd like to dial in on the program tonight and comment on the G.G. Jackson to South Carolina, how you're feeling about that. We're turning the page now towards the college football season in serious mode. NFL camps are opening up. Some high school practices are beginning, and we're just a week away from the start of college practice, a week away, give or take a few days, the start of college practice around the state of South Carolina. So we got football definitely on the mind.
I've got one more question, though, for you about Gigi before we put him to bed. I saw a lot of stuff over the weekend about how he was the highest rated recruit to ever come to USC in terms of men's basketball. If they had recruiting and rankings the way they have now back in the 70s, wouldn't Alex English and John Roach and some of those guys off the Frank McGuire teams, don't you think they would have been five-star type talents?
Well, to be quite honest with you, John Roach was a throw-in. Frank McGuire did not go back up to New York to recruit John Roach. He went back up to New York to recruit his teammate, Tom Owens. Mm-hmm. And he saw John Roach, and he said, who's this guy? That's where John Roach was. John Roach was not that well-known of a figure in basketball circles at that point. Just a good guard in New York who came down to South Carolina and developed to a superstar. Kevin Joyce was a much more highly touted prospect coming out of New York. Tom Riker was a much more highly touted prospect.
How about
and they had
English?
Several of those. Alex English, yeah. Alex English, of course, was the best in the state. Nate Davis was the best in the state when he came out, and on and on. Yeah, I mean, there was no system for assigning a grade to players back then, and it wasn't necessary. And it's not necessary now except for people to make a lot of money off of it, which is fine. I don't begrudge anybody making a lot of money. My point is, though, it wasn't necessary for those guys, and it's not necessary now. You can just look at G.G. Jackson and watch him play and know he's a good player. And if every school in the country wants you, you're a good player, don't you? Sure. Mm-hmm. You don't need a star rating except for your ego. But as far as being a player, he's got all the potential in the world to come in. Yet he's not stepping into a team of superstars. He's stepping into a team that looks like on paper has got some good players. Michi Johnson, was a pretty highly recruited guy coming out of high school. The transfer from Coastal, who you like a lot, is a good player. The transfer from Illinois, I think, if he can stay healthy, has potential, and on and on. So, but again, intriguing to watch how they piece all this together. How they piece it all together, because you're talking about a group of guys coming together with very little time together. And typically speaking, your real good basketball teams have been together 2-3 years, unless, like you pointed out, a Kentucky team which throws together a parade All-American squad. And that's just talent living off talent. But those teams have also had trouble getting through the NCAA tournament in recent years, too, because of their youth. Back in a moment.
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, but South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
I'm not like some whoop-de-doo executive chef. I consider myself more of a baker than a chef. I like working with my hands. I like turning regular ingredients into like something spectacular.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has funded over 450,000 life scholarships in our state. giving countless students a chance to answer their calling, just like Aaron. Your passion is our purpose.
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolina's grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolina's peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
Hey, as the summer drags on, I want to remind you about our good friends down at the beach, James Smith Realty and Jimmy Smith at Paulie'sVacationRentals.com. If you hadn't had a chance to get on that vacation and you're still thinking about what you want to do, well, great place to go is Pawleys Island and also Litchfield and other spots there along the coast where Jimmy can put you in a great location. It could be a house, it could be a large house, it could be a small house, it could be a condominium, whatever fits your need for getting away for a few days, maybe a week, maybe a couple of weeks, a month, or longer. You want to buy some property as well? Jimmy and his staff can help you out and put you in the right place. That phone number is 843-237-4246, 843-237-4246 for your perfect beach getaway. Make sure you go in and visit Jimmy. Tell him you hear about him all the time on Sports Talk. You'll like that. And check out his memorabilia collection because it's fantastic. He sent me a picture the other night. He was having dinner, he and his wife having dinner with Pete Limbo, USC assistant coach. He was down at the beach for a little vacation. They were getting together over there at a nice spot at Pawleys Island. Rubbing elbows with the beautiful people. That's what Jimmy does. And he can rub your elbow as well. Our phone number is 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. To your calls in just a second. Yesterday was a strange sports day in that, Chris, I kind of walked away from things that were going on. And when I walked away from the golf tournament, watching the golf tournament, I was sure Scott Piercy was going to win that tournament up in Minnesota. And then when I stopped, I listened to the end of the NASCAR race, and I was sure that Denny Hamlin had won the race. And it wasn't until 3 or 4 hours later that I learned that he and Kyle Busch had been disqualified and Chase Elliott was the winner. And it was also about the same time that I found out that Tony Finau came from way behind, and Scott Piercy, just lost everything over the last 10 holes or so. And Tony Finau won that tournament. So the point is, never assume the winner of something until it's absolutely over. And it's not absolutely over in NASCAR until inspection. I always kind of laughed at Bob Pockris and those guys who would report on inspection, inspection clear. And, the 11 is the winner, but not this time. Boy, it's big turn of events in NASCAR.
Could you imagine though, Phil? Let's take the Phoenix and the end of the playoffs and Chase Elliott wins. Just pull a name out of a hat, who maybe in a mix that time of year. And there's something like the front fascia, whatever the heck that is. That was the problem on the 11 and the 18 cars at Pocono yesterday. And he's disqualified. And they have to move to the number two driver of the four teams that are in the championship, and that's who wins the title. Could you imagine the outcry of NASCAR? Could you imagine any other sports? Let's take the Super Bowl. And you've got the Patriots taking on the 49ers. And the 49ers score a touchdown, and they review the touchdown, and evidently after the game, not right after the play, but after the game. And they've handed out the trophy, and then they come back out there and take the trophy away and give it over to New England because San Francisco, should have been called for all sides on the play. NASCAR has got to figure out a way to stop this. You can't go after a race when all the fans are there and watch it finish and then to come back and tell them that the driver that they saw win the race did not win the race. That is a major flaw in what they do. I get it. You have to go through inspection and the whole 9 yards. But if they, to me, and this has always been the biggest beef I've had with NASCAR, if you pass the pre-race inspection, I don't need you to go through a post-race inspection. Whatever you can do during the race to improve your car, you ought to be allowed to do so. So you don't run into this situation.
I disagree with you a little bit because this is the first time this has happened since 1960.
It's rare. Yeah, sure.
And number two, I mean, let's face it, we're talking about man and machines, not just man on man and machines. And man will do things to make machine run better than the next guy, and they will cut corners. And in this particular case, they found in the post-race inspection some kind of fabric stuffed up under the front part of the cars on both of them that was not supposed to be there. And for whatever reason, that affected the way those cars ran and maybe helped them win the race. I don't know. I'm not that sophisticated and all that. But when you find something in there that's not supposed to be there, they're going to DQ you. That's just the bottom line. All right, to the phones we go. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery. Lucky number here on Sports Talk. And, we just got word, Pat. No Justin Ross this year. Situation gone from bad to worse for the Clemson receiver.
Yeah, I'm actually still reading the article right now, but seeing this come out now, Field Yates and then Joshua Briscoe of SI.com reporting that Justin Ross has been placed on injured reserve for the Kansas City Chiefs, ending his rookie season before it truly began. We had pointed out on Friday that Andy Reid had him on the physically unable to perform, the PUP list, and that he would miss a portion of training camp, but they were hopeful that he would be able to return. He had to have a second procedure on that same foot. Andy Reid, head coach of the Chiefs, saying that it was just a precautionary to kind of clean up some things they missed during the initial surgery back in the fall or winter. But I guess it must have been more concerning than they thought. And it looks like it has nothing to do with his spine injury, with his back, neck, the congenital fusion surgery that he had, but instead this is dealing with his foot that he suffered, the injury that he suffered last year while at Clemson. But it does look like he is now officially out for the season for the Chiefs. But it speaks to the hopes they have for him that as an undrafted free agent, they're holding on to him. They're not just cutting him, they're holding on to him with hope for his future.
All right, let's go to the phones. 888-898-2525 is the number. Hank in Columbia up first tonight, first this week on Sports Talk. Hank, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I think that the people, in terms of wanting a winning record, is just I think that's a good way to temper the expectations because they know Gigi's only one person coming into this program. Now, in regards to one of the things with the teams now is the team is practicing most of the summer because of with the new rules. The coaches are actually able to practice one or 2 days with them a week. So they don't have to wait. It's not like before where they wait until the fall to practice. But I don't see about bringing these different players together. This is no different than the last 4 years. Remember, the COVID year was so horrible. About 10 players left that year, and about 9 or 10 came in, and that resulted in last year's 18-12 or 18-13 record. So I think just like your partner said, this is basically a sign of the times now for a lot of teams, fans, a team that made it to the Final Four and came back. Most of these other teams, there's been a ton of shifting parts.
Hank, our partner. The partner has a name.
Okay,
Chris.
Say his name, Chris. His name is Chris.
But Hank's right in this regard. I mean, if your expectations are for this team, even with Gigi Jackson just having a winning record, then Frank Martin should still be the head coach. Because this is a team that went 19-13 last year and finished 9-9 in the SEC. You ought to, if you're bringing in the top flight player in the country, you ought to expect a little more than just a winning record. In my opinion.
There's too many of those guys left, though, Corn. I mean, that team, 8 of them went somewhere else?
Yeah, 8 newcomers right now. There's still a spot for one more, right? They've got 4 returnees, 8 newcomers. They got 1 spot left if you wanted to try and bring somebody else in. I hear what you're saying about the workouts they can have, and that is true. And they can go play pickup games, and that is true. Still, it's not like working together 2 or 3 years in the same system You're talking about the perfect storm here of new coaches, a new system, and all new people. I mean, that's going to be kind of tough to pull together. I'm not saying they can't do it. They might do it beautifully, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I say that. But, when you talk about the team from last year, that's like LSU talking about the team from last year. LSU lost the entire team.
Yeah, they did.
Brought in with 0 players. So you can't really take last year and say, well, it should be a team at this level.
That's a good point. Not going to disagree. Thank you very much. I'm not saying they're not going to be good. I'm just saying it's not going to be easy because of the fact that they're just now getting to know each other, and there's not a lot of time to get ready before the start of the season in November. We'll be back after the break.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Not cooling down much this evening. A low dips to just 76. Tomorrow, much like today, with a high of 92 to go with a lot of humidity. It'll be a mix of sunshine and clouds and a 20% chance of rain. Hot and dry until Friday, with highs in the mid to upper 90s. Friday, we get back to those afternoon and evening shower expectations. Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. Conflicting signs about the health of the U.S. economy have thrust the Federal Reserve into a difficult spot. With inflation raging at a 4-decade high, the job market is strong and consumer spending still solid. The Fed is under pressure to raise interest rates aggressively. But other signs suggest the economy is slowing and might even have shrunk in the first half of the year. In one of the most significant attacks by law enforcement on insider trading in a decade, 9 people have been charged in 4 separate and unrelated insider trading schemes. They include a former U.S. congressman from Indiana, technology company executives, an investment banker, and a man training to be an FBI agent. The charges were announced Monday in Manhattan. On Wall Street, the Dow by 90 points. More details at srnnews.com.
I'm already a big fan of Medicare Blueprint. Tim and his team saved me several $1,000s. They took a look at my health insurance. They helped me get the best possible plan. But not long ago, I reached out when we had a crisis. The big bad insurance company out of nowhere just canceled Mom's medicine for her multiple sclerosis. No warning, 30 years, same med, and just like that, gone. Here's the good news. Medicare Blueprint doesn't work for the insurance companies. They work for you. They're local. Imagine me trying to get this fixed, calling some national toll-free number. Outsourced operators never talk to the same person twice. Medicare Blueprint went to work, helped me get Mom's meds back, and how's this? Even less expensively than we were paying before. Incredible customer service and local. What a great formula. Oh, and it cost me nothing for their services. Nothing. Whether you're on Medicare or not, my mom is, I'm not. Medicare Blueprint helped both of us. Online, it's MedicareBlueprint.com or call them 708-7398. That's 708-7398.
Summer's here and it's time to add to your family. It's time to bring home a dog or cat from Columbia Animal Services. For a fee of only $35, get a new family friend and save an animal at the same time. The fee includes spay and neutering, vaccinations, and an exam from the staff's vet. You can adopt, foster, or just make a donation. Call 776-PETS. That's 776-7387. Or find Columbia Animal Services on social media. Look online at petfinder.com to see them. Now is the time. Adopt, foster, donate. Columbia Animal Services.
The most dangerous appliance in the house is the clothes dryer. There's no bigger fire hazard than a dryer not working properly. I'm Patrick with Dryer Vent Wizard in Lexington. Is your dryer taking more than one cycle to dry clothes? It's more than cleaning out a lint trap. Dryer Vent Wizard helps with fire prevention, avoiding mold and mildew, saving energy, which saves dollars and extends the life of your dryer and even your clothes. Dryer vents are all we do. Online, it's LexingtonDryerVentWizard.com or call us today, 693-5357. That's 693-5357.
You know what? I get asked every now and then, Kev, when you say my guy, do you really have a my guy at Palmetto Exterminators? Well, I really do. Ron Byers is my guy. Do you realize I've been a customer of Palmetto Exterminators for 20 years this summer. That's over the course of 3 homes, longer than my kids have been around. I'm loyal to Palmetto Exterminators for several reasons. First, they do a phenomenal job with pest control for a very fair price. It's just not a concern around my home. They take care of everything from regular visits to termite inspection, mosquito care. This is a company that's been around for more than 60 years serving the Midlands. When they come around, they're clean, they're courteous, and they're on time. Look, it's not just me. When it comes to things like those pesky mosquitoes, Palmetto Exterminators voted best of Columbia in Columbia Metropolitan for their mosquito control. I could have told you that before anyone even voted. What else can you possibly need from your pest control company? If you're looking for someone to help you, look no further than my guy, Ron Byers, Palmetto Exterminators. Online, it's palmettoexterminators.net or call them 254-5833, 254-5833.
Back we are, Sports Talk on a Monday night. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. 888-898-2525 is the number. Coach Stoneman's finishing up with his little recruiting call he's got going on, so we'll catch up with him in about 10 minutes or so. So in the meantime, let's get back to your phone calls. 888-898-2525, the number. Rocky in Greenville. Welcome into Sports Talk. Good to have you with us tonight. How are you?
I'm doing well, Phil. Hope you are.
Yes, sir.
And all of you.
We're great.
Calling about Gigi Jackson, and I think the one thing's a given, and I think we can all agree: the fannies in the seats at the CLA is going to go up, probably quite a bit, for sure. And you've got this kid who's, he's getting ready to be a freshman in college when he should be a senior in high school. And he's going to a program, Carolina, that is so starving for some consistency and a winning basketball program, not Final Fours, but tournaments and consistency in winning. And I just worry about the pressure on him. And he's one guy on the squad. Now, I know you mentioned Calipari, and yeah, he's one 5-star, not 2 or 3 to add to a roster. So, on your poll question, and the NIT is so much harder to get into now just because of the guidelines that in selection and getting into the NIT as it was. I mean, I'm thinking right now NIT, that's going to be a good season because you're definitely going to have a winning record, and you're going to be on the verge of a tournament appearance. And if you love Lamont Evans, look, you got your first season, you got the best player in the country, a 5-star, to come here. I mean, he's not going to be here but a year. If he was going to play more than a year, he'd just stayed where he was, played, and gone to North Carolina next year. If he was planning on playing more than 1 year here, that's why he reclassified. So I don't want too much pressure on the kid in NCAA tournament. I think a lot of Gamecock fans would. If they were able to make an NIT and make a good run in the NIT, that's a good season. And he would have had success anyway if they're going to make an NIT because it's just tougher to get into it anyway. So I'm gonna back down just a little bit, a little more than the winning record, but not really tournament yet because I don't know about these other players.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
He's so spot on.
Yeah,
he really is.
Yeah. Good comment.
With regards to the NIT, and people joke and chuckle when they hear somebody like Rocky say how difficult it is to get into the NIT. I will tell you right now, top to bottom, the NIT field is better than the NCAA tournament field. The problem is no one cares, and that's the biggest issue. But he's right. If they get to an NIT, considering what they've had to bring together, and as you pointed out, Phil, with the brand new coaching staff, even with the number one player in the country, I think it's a tremendous season for USC and Lamont Paris.
I would say so. I mean, again, pulling all these parts together and making them play well together cohesively and having a winning record and maybe winning a game or two in the SEC tournament, having an upper division finish in the SEC. I mean, those are all reasonable expectations any given year. And I was just looking at this team is not as old as I thought. Really, they'll have 3 seniors on the team. Deba is a senior. Chico Carter Jr. is a senior. And the other one is Hayden Brown, who's a graduate student. So those would be the three oldest guys on the team. Got a couple of juniors and then the freshmen as well. So it's not quite as old as I thought with all the transfers. I still say the biggest hurdle to overcome is coming together as a team in such a short amount of time with so little work. You know, despite the off-season work, you might be able to get together and working some with the coaches. I don't think right now, while you can do some drills and skill work, I don't think you can have full court scrimmaging and coaching along those lines like you can once things really begin in October. Am I correct about that?
I think that's correct. They can do sort of minimal in terms of participation, maybe 2 or 3 players at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget, too, I think Lamar Paris, and first off, I think Frank Martin and his former staff deserve some credit for getting Gigi at least interested in USC. And then Lamar Paris and his current staff deserve a lot of credit for getting him to, once he decommitted from North Carolina, to come back to South Carolina. But how much of an impact, Phil, do you believe Kerry Rich may have had in all of this?
Oh, my goodness, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I mean, Kerry, obviously, with his connections to the family and to high school basketball in Columbia. Oh, yeah. That had to be it. No Kerry Rich, no G.G. Jackson, probably.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
And also, you know, tip of the cap again. We did it before, but tip of the cap again to Jamie Shaw, who, caught a lot of message board and Twitter heat when he put the story out that, first of all, he was considering decommitting and reclassifying, and then he actually did. He nailed this story every step of the way. He was money. So tip of the hat to him for doing a great job in uncovering the story, reporting it, and never flinching. He never backed down from what he reported, and he took it all the way to the end. So that's excellent reporting by him. All right, we go to Andy in Columbia. Next with us here on Sports Talk. Hello, Andy. Welcome in. How are you?
Phil, Pat, Chris, I'm doing well. Pat, Chris, you stole my thunder. I was going to say the captain, big part in getting all this accomplished.
Well, I apologize for that.
People don't realize that. They don't know who the captain is and what kind of strings he has here in this state regarding high school basketball and AAU scene. He knows it, and he knows where to steer the bus. Was Graziano like a number 1 or number 2 kind of recruit, Phil?
Yeah, he was. I remember when Frank McGuire introduced him at a basketball camp that I was at when I was a first-team All-Star, first-team All-Defense.
Oh, please. We got to go through this again?
And but he had him stand up. We were in the lunchroom at the Roost. And it was one of the 2 times we saw.
Lunch at the Roost. It was always lunch at Bates' house.
I'm sorry, Bates' house. My bad. Yeah, Bates' house. It was one of the 2 times we saw Frank
McGuire
not
let you guys
during
the
entire
Roost.
camp. And it was at lunch, and he said, I want to introduce to you next great player at South Carolina. It's my poor Irish accent. Stand up, Jim Graziano from New Jersey. He might have been a high school senior and committed to him, or maybe he was a freshman. I don't remember.
He was a lot younger than Phil, because I'm 4 years younger than you, and Graz was in school when I was in school.
Yeah, so maybe he was just a high school guy then.
Is this. I don't know if everybody realizes. Graz found punk rock. He became the number 1 doorman at Von Hinman's in 5 Points, the punk rock bar. And that destroyed his whole college basketball life.
I always heard he discovered the Golden Spur.
No, it was Von Hinman's down in 5 Points.
Never heard of Von Hinman's. Pat, you ever hear of Von Hinman's?
It was next.
Chris, you ever hear of Von Hinman's?
Now that's the first.
Punk rock bar.
Punk rock bar in Columbia. And what year was this? Like 19?
This was in 79, 80, 78 to 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
He had a good freshman year, and then he just slipped,
Yeah, he became a doorman at Von Hinman's.
Tall doorman. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Anything
one
else?
Other thing.
Yeah.
What is y'all feeling? I mean, I saw Charles Barkley today on Dan Patrick. How do y'all feel? I mean, my feeling is this: if Barkley goes to the Live Tour, he's not going to be on TNT anymore. What's that going to be like without Chuck on that post and pregame no longer.
Yeah, big loss. You don't replace a personality like that. That would be a huge loss for that show. He can't. Are you saying if he goes on the Live tour, why can't he be on the TNT show? Yeah.
Well, he hasn't really talked to TNT about it, but he gets the feeling that he's going to lose all his endorsements, and he'll probably not be able to work for TNT anymore because of the Saudi connection. But you know what he says? It's money to me, money.
Yeah.
They give me enough money. He didn't really say, but Patrick guessed at $20 million a year, endorsements and what he gets at TNT, and he told him he's pretty close. So he's making about 20. He goes, these guys are getting $200 million, $100 million. Because if they give me $100 million a year, he said, where do you think I'm going to go?
Yeah. All right. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. I'd hate to lose him off of the basketball broadcast because I do enjoy that show during the basketball season. I don't know about
wasn't Marv Albert still on TNT? And let's face it, what he's at least accused of doing is, in terms of making. I just don't see why Charles Barkley. But he also did TNT.
He did TNT too. Yeah. They oftentimes shared play-by-play announcers. Yeah.
So let's face it. Marv was accused of a lot of shady stuff, and I don't know why Charles Barkley would be any worse.
Like everything else is changing in our world. Like everything else is changing. We got to get over the live thing. I mean, it's there. It's not going away. People are going to take advantage of it. I think, as somebody has pointed out, you could probably follow the money for the PGA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and find some blood money along the line somewhere that's connected to some. I mean, don't even bring up the NBA in China, okay? If you want to start making arguments like that. So hard to hide from that kind of huge money like that. So it's like George Bryan says, it's another opportunity for golfers to go out and play golf, and those that leave the PGA Tour open up spots for others to come in there. We'll be back. We're with Major Billy Downer of DNR Major. It's always a good time for folks to remember to get those licenses renewed.
Doesn't matter what time of the year, it's always a season in, whether it's fishing or hunting. Make sure to check your licenses, make sure they're up to date. If you need a hunting or fishing license, you may go to www.dnr.sc.gov to purchase your license online or to any local licensed vendor in your local area.
And don't forget to join us for SC Wild from DNR with Major Billy Downer on Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
If you're looking to stay hydrated this summer, turn toward a southern favorite, sweet South Carolina watermelons. One slice is equivalent to a glass of water and is just as effective as sports drinks for hydration. If you don't believe us, you can ask the Palmetto State's top football teams. The SC Watermelon Association will be serving up slices after summer practice to keep our teams fueled and hydrated. Visit scwatermelon.org for all the details and look for ripe South Carolina watermelons in your hometown.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I love sports, and I've helped people for over 30 years. Contact me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com when the insurance company won't pay your claim or you have complicated issues. Some other business causes your business to lose money, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. When you lose a relative and find out you got cut out of a will or don't get what was promised. When you have serious injury, like from a wreck or mishap or on the job, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
A lot of recruiting news coming up for you, of course, a little bit later on after a big weekend and things happening today. Biggest story in the country, GG Jackson on Saturday announcing a commitment to South Carolina. That set the college basketball world on its ear. And we are privileged, if I can spit it out. It's our pleasure, and we are privileged to have his former coach at Ridgeview High School, now the head coach at Oak Hill Academy up in Virginia, Coach Yerrick Stoneman joining us for a few minutes to talk more about GG and what he's going to bring to the Gamecocks. Coach, good to have you with us. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well, and I appreciate y'all having me on, and look forward to talking about GG and all the excitement that he has brought to the world of basketball recently. So thank you for having me on.
My goodness. I mean, he has just blown the top off of it. Before we talk about what the Gamecocks will be getting, what'd you see in him this summer? What kind of growth in the spring after you won the championship with him? And, of course, he was outstanding. And then he takes off on his AAU involvement in spring and summer. What kind of growth did you see in him over those months after he left you?
Well, definitely, I was able to see some basketball growth, watching the USA team on live network. And then also, seeing what he was able to do at Top 100 Cup NBA. But I think the biggest thing is his maturity through the process. He's still young. He's 17 years old, but, you could really see the maturity and this is the things that he wants for basketball for himself, to continue to grow in that and do all the work that is necessary to be the best GG that he can be. And then we were able to see that and, him being away from home for really a whole month and that he was able to adjust and mature that away. That's the growth that I saw.
What about physically? Taking this next step a year early into college, is he ready? Can he be ready by the time they toss it up for real in November?
I think so. I think with all the resources that South Carolina has, especially within the weight room and nutrition, he has the right body frame to be able to put on weight quick. And the resources that South Carolina has and that weight room is unbelievable. The strength and conditioning coach that they have is great. And then, I'm sure the nutritional part is still as good as it was when, they recruited, and I was able to see when they was recruiting a couple of my guys, Javon Benson, and when they had Malcolm Wilson there for a visit. So I know the things that they can do, and GG is the type of person that's going to absorb and be that sponge and take everything in. So I think in about 6 to 8 weeks, you're really going to see a big difference within his body. I think his weight's going to increase where his body fat will decrease.
So
I guess that's something we all need, huh?
I was going to say, I want to get on that program too, though I don't have the determination anymore like this young man does. So now that he's moving on to college, and of course at the high school level, and he played at the high level of high school level and high level AAU, and he had his dominating points there, but now he's stepping into the SEC, stepping into major college basketball. How do you think Coach Parrish plans to utilize him? Have y'all talked very much about his strengths and weaknesses? Has he kind of tapped into you a little bit about some ideas on the best way to implement his skills?
When Coach Parrish first got the job, me and him sat down for a brunch one Sunday morning, and we talked quite a bit about GG. And, he was still trying to get to know GG as a person, but also as a basketball player. But I think once he gets there, he's going to know that GG is a very versatile player. He can play multiple positions. He's a legit 6'10". He runs the floor well. He plays hard. And, a unique ability that he also brings is the ability to want to rebound. He, at the top 100 camp, NBA top 100 camp, against some of the best players, he averaged a double-double, the only one in the camp to do that. So, he's going to put GG in the right position, one, to make him successful, but also the Gamecocks successful. So, and that's what's unique about GG. Do they need GG to be a 4-man and sit on the post, or, can he continue to grow and develop as a 3-man? Those are things that coach will figure out pretty quick, I'm sure, and, in the makeup of the team.
GG Jackson's former high school head coach, Yerrick Stoneman, with us here tonight on Sports Talk, chatting about his decommitment from North Carolina and his signing with Carolina over the weekend. And, Coach, obviously this has been a lot of moving parts coming at him over the last couple of weeks since his announcement that he was decommitting from UNC. Phil hit on the physical side of the coin, and I think it's 6'10", and his ability and athleticism, I think we all can see. But when you look at him as a player and in terms of his mental aspect and makeup, what makes him ready to step up a classification and go to college this upcoming year as opposed to finishing out his senior year at high school?
I think his ability to want to compete and want to be great. Some of the things that I noticed as his coach, the better teams that we played against and the best teams we played against, whether it was the Oak Hills of the world, prolific preps of the world, the Huntington preps and those prep schools, the national powerhouses, when we played them, he played his best games. I mean, if you look at him coming into his junior year, we played Mount Bird. We did a scrimmage. It wasn't necessarily Ridgeview, but we did a scrimmage against Mount Bird. He had 28 points and 12 rebounds against them. So that's the type of person he's going to step up and meet that competition. And especially if somebody is in front of him, if people predict to be better than him, he just competes at another level. So I think that's going to help. And, the past month has really made a big difference in him. And then every day he had to compete against equal or better competition, whether it was, at the USA camp. At the USA camp, the practices were better than the games, and he was going against guys that were going to be freshmen. He just turned 17 in December, so he actually got bumped up to the 18 under team. That's something that shows that he can compete at that level, whether it's the SEC or ACC, whoever the South Carolina might match up with throughout the season.
Did he lean on you, because we've heard the story about him being the first decommitment from North Carolina in terms of the modern era? That's never happened with the Tar Heels, and he had to understand what the reaction might be. When he talked about reclassification, did he talk with you about what that might mean, and why did sort of walk us through the last couple of weeks as to how that unfolded for him and why ultimately he made the decision to end back up at South Carolina?
Well, I think this process started back in late December, early January. Once we felt like it might be an opportunity, he might be ready. So, his parents and them sit down with the administration at Ridgeview, got him enrolled in the two classes that he needed to graduate early. And then, throughout the spring semester, he was able to complete those just in case this happened. And, I know that on 3 different occasions, they asked the Jackson family, does he want to reclass up and come to North Carolina? Just recently, that they had taken the Nance kid and they didn't have another spot for him. But, through that whole process, each time, the Jackson family and Gigi's circle said he wasn't ready mentally, not physically, not basketball IQ, not being able to perform at a high level on the basketball court, but really maturity level and making sure that he could handle the stress. But, really the last 3 weeks with when he went in with the USA and then also with the top 100 camp, you could really tell that he was ready mentally and maturity wise, that he can handle being out and be a college student, making sure that he can go to class on time, be at workouts on time, be prepared to take a test, or be prepared to step on the court and be ready to compete right then and right now. So I think that's the reason why the decision was made late. North Carolina didn't have a slot available, and it just makes so much sense that South Carolina would be that one because his mom and dad are only 10, 12 miles from campus. So, Gigi gets out of hand, they can still reach out and touch him.
His dad's a big old fella, too. I think he's certainly capable of doing that if he needs to.
I don't mess with Mr. Jackson, that's for sure. I might be a hit and run type guy. I'm going to hit him and run. You got to catch him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Luckily, I hadn't made him that mad yet.
There you go. Well, you're way up there in Virginia now, so you're a safe distance. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck to you with everything at Oak Hill, because you are now in one of the true high school basketball spotlights in the country. I know you're going to do an outstanding job there, and we will talk to you again sometime soon. But thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all, and appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Take care, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Coach.
Right,
Garrett Stoneman, former coach at Ridgeview, did a great job there. course, he came to Ridgeview from Oak Hill, and when Steve Smith decided to retire, it was only natural that he would gravitate towards that job, and they hired him to replace the legendary Steve Smith, and he will do a great job there because he did a great job at Ridgeview. And he always had a great run of players come through Ridgeview. People wanted to go to Ridgeview and play for him. They'll do the same thing there at Oak Hill Academy in Virginia. Mouth of Wilson, Virginia. Sounds like a nice little town. We will hit the break here on Sports Talk. We'll come back and take more of your phone calls, and we'll catch you up on recruiting. We'll hear from ACC and SEC football coach as well, plus John Kosis of the Fireflies in hour number 2.
Someone will be right with you. The Point.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107. The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. With gasoline prices still near an all-time high, voters want the government to boost domestic production and trust Republicans more than Democrats by more than 2-1 on the issue. Correspondent Bernie Bennett has details on this new survey.
A new national telephone and online survey by Rasmussen Reports finds that 71% of likely U.S. voters believe the U.S. government should encourage increased oil and gas production to reduce America's dependence on foreign sources of oil and gas. Only 19% oppose the policy of encouraging U.S. independence, while 10% are not sure. These findings are nearly unchanged since March. The survey of 1,000 likely U.S. voters was conducted between July 18th and 19th. The margin of error was plus or minus 3% with a 95% level of confidence. I'm Bernie Bennett.
The White House says President Biden's COVID-19 symptoms have almost completely resolved. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
The president's doctor says Mr. Biden still has some nasal congestion and hoarseness, but his other COVID symptoms have subsided. Dr. Kevin O'Connor's latest medical update says the president's vital signs remain absolutely normal, and he plans to continue isolating in the White House residence. The president continues taking the antiviral Paxlovid, which helps reduce the chance of severe illness from the coronavirus. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Russia's top diplomat says Moscow's overarching goal in Ukraine is to free its people from its unacceptable regime, expressing the Kremlin war's aim in some of the bluntest terms yet, as its forces pummel the country with artillery barrages and airstrikes. The remark from Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov comes amid Ukraine's efforts to resume grain exports from its Black Sea ports. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 90 points, the Nasdaq dropped 51, the S&P 500 advancing 5. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
The fight for the unborn is raging in our country. The Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade, clearing the way for many states to ban or severely limit abortion. The debates have never been stronger. During this critical time, the award-winning film, The Matter of Life, cuts through the rhetoric and hatred and exposes the real issues surrounding the plight of the unborn. The Matter of Life. Stream it today at salemnow.com and have your own life transformed as you watch The Matter of Life.
Tens of thousands of people who evacuated from Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region are returning to homes close to the front line because they can't afford to live in safer places.
Evacuees disembark from a train at Podrosk, including a man with crutches and a bandaged leg and a woman with their baggage. The office of the town mayor estimates that 70% of those who evacuated are now coming home. In the larger city of Kramatorsk, an hour's drive away, officials say the population has dropped to about 50,000 from the normal 220,000, but has since risen to nearly 70,000. One Podrosk teenager, I understand that it's very risky to stay here in town, but if we leave, nobody waits for us there. Who will take care of us? We need to earn money. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Not cooling down much this evening. Low dips to just 76. Tomorrow, much like today, with a high of 92, to go with a lot of humidity. It'll be a mix of sunshine and clouds and a 20% chance of rain. Hot and dry until Friday, with highs in the mid to upper 90s. Friday, we get back to those afternoon and evening shower expectations. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make thepointradio.com.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
All right, we're back with you, Sports Talk Media Network on a Monday night. Thanks again to Coach Stoneman for being with us. Yeah, I tell you, he's a great talent, this young man, no doubt about it, G.G. Jackson. He's a great talent. He's used to carrying a team. I mean, he did that at Ridgeview for the most part. Now, he had some other good players. You know, he had Benson there a couple of years ago as he was a younger player, and he also had Wilson, who went to Georgetown. He's had some big-time players, and he had a nice point guard who went to was it Butler or a smaller program? He's had some good players to play with at that level. You got to be careful here, and maybe because they do have some older guys on the team, you know, he won't feel like he's got to be the guy. But you certainly, if you're Lamont Paris and the coaching staff, you certainly design a great deal of offense to go through this young man because he's got the skills.
Well, and even if you don't feel, and even if you want him to kick, average 12 points a game and 8 boards a game, if he could do that, that'd be outstanding. But I think what this also sends out a message, doesn't it, on down the road? Regardless of what you do with GG next season, it certainly has to establish Lamont Paris as, hey, look, we've got the university, we've got the program, we've got everything you need. If you're a top flight in-state player, you need to come here. And if you're him, that's what you want to send the message. You want to say, yeah, we can keep the top flight players in-state in South Carolina, because as we've talked about before, both Brad Brownell and Frank Martin, probably their biggest knock on those two guys is the fact they could not keep top flight talent in state. They would navigate to Tennessee, they go to Georgia, they go all over the place, and we just couldn't keep them here in state. Maybe this starts to change here, because if you look at where, especially South Carolina football, when it was at its peak under Steve Spurrier, it was the guys like the football equivalent of G.G. Jackson, Jadeveon Clowney, the Marcus Lattimores. They kept those players in state, and it turned out to be, pay major dividends. Maybe this starts another cycle where Lamont Paris can come in during his first year. And I don't think you can undersell, as you pointed out back in the first hour, I don't think you can undersell Kerry Rich and the job he's done. I think that may pay huge dividends for them in terms of a major hire to bridge that gap between a guy coming in from Tennessee at UT Chattanooga to now take over here at South Carolina and maybe start keeping some of those top flight players in state.
All right, let me hit a few notes. Our Founders Federal Notebook. Right now, you can get mortgage notes as low as 4.35% with Founders Federal. So we check out a few notes from today. One coming from NASCAR, coming from Joe Gibbs Racing just a little while ago, explaining what happened to their two cars, which were disqualified after finishing first and second yesterday. And they put out a statement saying, quote, in our review of the post-race infractions on the 11 and the 18 at Pocono, it was discovered that a single piece of clear tape was positioned over each of the lower corners of the front fascia ahead of the left front and right front wheel openings on both cars. The added pieces were 2 inches wide and 5.5 inches long with a thickness of 0.012 inches and installed under the wrap. This change in our build process was not properly vetted within our organization. Does that mean nobody knew it was done secretly? That was my comment there. And we recognize it is against NASCAR's rules. We apologize to everyone for this mistake, and we have made changes to our process to ensure that it does not happen again. Wally Brown, Director of Competition for Joe Gibbs Racing. So,
and we'll have to ask KT about this tomorrow night, and Jeff certainly on Friday when we look to next weekend. But if it was underneath the wrap, that would lead me to believe, Phil, that this was actually put in prior to the start of the race. So if that's indeed the case, how did they pass pre-race inspection?
From what I understand, they don't break it down as much in pre-race. They tear it down. The first two cars get really torn down after the race, and 3, 4, and 5 are torn down less, but they're looked into. But I don't think they go into such detail. We can ask KT tomorrow what this all means.
And that's, again, my biggest problem. If they pass pre-race inspection, leave them alone.
Okay.
They should not have post-race inspection.
USC corner Cam Smith, Clemson safety Andrew Makuba, named to the Jim Thorpe Award watch list. USC linebacker Sherrod Green and Clemson linebacker Trent Simpson, named to the Butkus Award watch list. Southern Conference TV Game of the Week schedule announced today. You've got East Tennessee State at the Citadel, September 10th. The next week, the Citadel at Mercer. The next week, Mercer at Wofford. October 15th, Western at Furman. On the 29th, Chattanooga at Furman. And then November 5th, Wofford at Western Carolina. The family of Phil Petty put out a statement this morning thanking Gamecock fans. This is from his wife, Morgan. And she wrote, quote, "To all of Phil's Gamecock family and fans who have participated in his journey, we are completely humbled by the outpouring of love and support. Phil always spoke of the love, brotherhood, and bond that was created during his time at the University of South Carolina. Over the last few days, the presence of all the love and support from all over has validated the family and bond Phil spoke of. Thank you for all the love, support, and helping to keep Phil's legacy alive for the years to come. With much love to our Gamecock Nation, Morgan, Sage, and McCoy." And his funeral will be tomorrow in North Myrtle Beach. Sunbelt preseason honors announced this morning. And you have, as the preseason offensive player of the year, Grayson McCall of Coastal.
Stunner.
Defensive preseason player of the year, Josiah Stewart of Coastal. First team offense, McCall, and center Willie Lampkin from Coastal. And on the first team defense, Stewart. That's the only shot on that unit. And then on the second team, on the defense, you have defensive lineman Gerard Clark from Coastal Carolina. As for the coaches' preseason poll, they don't do a media, they do a coaches' preseason poll. And in that one, I will tell you that in the East, Appalachian State is picked first, 10 first-place votes. Coastal was second with 2. Then Georgia State, Marshall, Georgia Southern, James Madison, and Old Dominion. In the West, it's Louisiana, 12 first-place votes. Then South Alabama, Troy, Texas State, Southern Miss, Arkansas State, and ULM. Let's hit the phones again. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery. Lucky number here on Sports Talk. We go to Triple T, ABM in Columbia. Triple T, ABM, Triple T. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon. How y'all doing?
We are doing fantastic.
First of all, I want to say to Carolina fans, chill. Chill. I know I get excited about Gigi. And also chill about who got Gigi at South Carolina. That's a bunch of hogwash. First of all, when Gigi commit to North Carolina, I said he would never play for North Carolina, end up in South Carolina. All he did was up the ante, commit to North Carolina, get the ante up, and was able to get whatever you need to get from South Carolina. Because everything already discussed, so cut the bull out about who got Gigi there. The Benjamin got BG at South Carolina, okay? Because I understand the business. Other folks talking about who, no. It's about the Benjamin. And he could be a good ball player, and I wish him well, like the coach said, this was talked about back in December about, some reclassifying. So all the works was in the works all the time. Tell the folks I'm saying is it's gonna be all right. Like you said, Peter Woods money. Didn't you say that, Phil?
I did.
Look here, man. It's not about
nothing wrong with it now. There's nothing wrong
there's
with
nothing
it.
wrong with it. And I tell folks, in the past, South Carolina didn't want to step up. They didn't want to step up. So I'm saying is, if you want to be with the big boys, you better act like the big boy. Like the old saying that I'm gonna get off the phone. If you're not cheating, you're not winning. Talk to you later.
But it ain't cheating anymore, unless, of course,
Oh,
now.
no, it's not cheating anymore. But I mean, in the past,
Yeah,
it's legal.
Yeah.
I'm saying this, so tell Carolina Fine, stop talking about who got what. No, the Benjamin gonna get him at USC.
Think
It's
of
no
all-
one particular person.
Think of all the probations Clemson could have avoided had they had NIL back in the 80s and 70s.
Phil, leave that alone. Leave that alone, Phil.
Okay.
Leave that alone. Hey, Phil.
I'm just being
Phil.
honest with you.
Hey, Phil.
Yes.
Through all the probation, we still got 3 national championships.
They didn't take them away from you. They didn't take them away from you. No.
That's right.
No.
Take care.
Okay. Thank you.
And tell them folks that they're talking about Steve Spurrier. You know, Steve had 3 good seasons. That's it.
And is he trying to implicate that North Carolina could not have paid for G.G. Jackson to play basketball in North Carolina? Surely not. I mean,
who knows? Who knows what NIL
me?
deals are in the works? You know, and thanks for the phone call there, Triple T, ABM.
But I mean, are you going to actually say that the South Carolina basketball could have paid more money, and maybe they did, I don't know, but could have paid more money than North Carolina basketball could for a recruit they wanted?
Well,
I mean, are we serious here?
The only thing, about the whole process, and we all say that it's legal. It is legal as long, right now, while the NCAA still has a tidbit of breath left in it, and they're trying to swing their little stick. They don't have the big bad stick like they used to have. We see what they're doing with Tennessee and what they're trying to do with Tennessee. That was prior to the new rules. But they will still come after you with whatever little bit they've got and at least embarrass you if they follow a lead that inducements, NIL inducements were used in the recruiting process. Beyond the fact that we offer NIL services,
sure,
and we can help you get to your financial goals with our NIL services. And South Carolina has got those internally, and of course they've got the outside collectives. But that's where you got to be careful if the NCAA cares to pursue it. Now they might be at the point where they're like, "What the heck? What good's it going to do to pursue it?" Except that they did, of course, make a bit of a stink over what happened at Miami with the boosters, publicly talking about all the money he's going to give players to come to Miami. We're talking high school players. Once you are in the program, like I guess in the case of G.G. Jackson, he can start summer school at South Carolina, I imagine, pretty soon, whenever the next session of summer school starts. Or I guess maybe he would wait and start the fall. The fall term starts like August 18th. So at this point, he's probably going to wait for the fall term.
Sure.
And as soon as he is enrolled as a full-time student, I guess that's when you become eligible to take advantage of the NIL opportunities that the school can generate for you. And whatever they've laid out for you in advance, then you kind of wait and see if that comes to fruition. All right, thank you very much.
To sit there and say that the money got G.G. Jackson to South Carolina over North Carolina is somewhat laughable, considering North Carolina has flaunted every rule that the NCAA has ever put into place, especially on the academic side of the coin. Reason North Carolina didn't get him, if everything is to be believed, is the fact that they'd already given away a scholarship when G.G. decided he wanted to reclassify for this upcoming season.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, according to what Jamie Shaw reported when he first wrote the story, and then, backed up by Coach Stoneman too, and that is that North Carolina reached out to him a couple of times and said, "Hey, do you want to reclassify to come here and we'll hold a spot for you?" And he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to reclassify to go to North Carolina yet. But you see, the timing, I don't think the idea of reclassifying really hit home with them until he went to that NBA camp.
I think you're right.
And tore it up and was the MVP of that NBA camp. And then I think maybe people got in his head and said, "Hey, man, you're ready now." You don't have to play another year of high school. You're ready now. And people pointed out to him the way the draft is setting up, and also apparently some new rules coming into play in the NBA when it comes to rookies. Now's the time to make your move. Don't sit back and wait and lose a year or two in that system, in the NBA payment system. You'll fall behind there. There was all kind of little things going on. So that's kind of when it hit him that it was time to make that move. All right. Good to hear from Triple T ABM here on Sports Talk. We'll come back with our recruiting report after the break, and we'll take more of your phone calls, 888-898-2525. Hit up a few more notes for you, and to hear from a couple of SEC and ACC coaches as we will continue to play some of the archive audio we have from the media days last week. Good stuff that we want to bring to you. We'll continue in a moment.
Hey folks, it's Mike Morgan for Gibson Insurance. Former Gamecock player Bo Mobley and former coach Stuart Lake want you on their team for all your insurance needs. Now, cost-effective solutions is what they're all about for the now and for the long term. They're licensed with every insurance company in the state. They've got offices in Columbia, Greenville, and Sumter. But if you're listening right now, let me direct you to call Bo and Stu today at 803-605-0029. That's 803-605-0029. Let my good friends take great care of you.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
If you're looking to stay hydrated this summer, turn toward a southern favorite, sweet South Carolina watermelons. One slice is equivalent to a glass of water and is just as effective as sports drinks for hydration. If you don't believe us, you can ask the Palmetto State's top football teams. The SC Watermelon Association will be serving up slices after summer practice to keep our teams fueled and hydrated. Visit scwatermelon.org for all the details and look for ripe South Carolina watermelons in your hometown.
All right, time for the recruiting report here on Sports Talk, brought to you by Seawells. Back up and running with the daily luncheon buffet every day this week, Monday through Friday. Make sure you get out to enjoy that. Food is delicious, it's well prepared, well served, and very economically priced at just $13 a plate, and you will not be disappointed, and you will not walk away hungry. I can promise you that. In fact, what you will do when you walk away is want to go take a nap. It's one of those situations where, you eat in the afternoon, it's hot, it's humid, stomach's full, Chris, and what do you want to do? You just want to go take a nap.
I don't even need to eat and have a stomach full to want to take a nap.
Well,
but yeah, no, I
this
understand
is
your point.
further inducement for taking a nap. And for the very best in the catering business, the folks at Seawells, they are the people to call, 803-771-7385. SeawellsCateringSC.com. Let Seawells help make your event a memorable experience. All right. We talked about G.G. Jackson ad nauseum. No reason to repeat that. On to some football. Announcement week for offensive tackle Oluwatosin Babalade of Hyattsville, Maryland. He plans to post his commitment decision on Twitter Sunday afternoon, sometime between 1 and 3. His final group has been USC, Maryland, North Carolina, Rutgers, and Ohio State. He told us yesterday the Buckeyes are not as involved as they once were, so I think got the feeling you could pretty much cut them from the list. He'll not take any visits during the live recruiting period this week, getting pretty close on the decision. Said he has it in the back of his mind right now, but he's still not really sure. Some schools are sneaking up. He said Maryland is really trying to sneak in a lot. He's talking with USC all the time. Shane Beamer, Greg Atkins, Sam Survey. They hit him up on a regular basis. And Beamer tells him that he just really wants to coach him very badly. And he said, in thinking about what's key for his decision, he said NIL deal is highly important, and being able to play early or at least see the field early at a place that's a good fit for him, that's important as well. And at South Carolina, he said he thinks it's a good fit. They're telling him they may be losing a tackle to the NFL after this season, so there'll be a chance for him to play relatively early. Now, USC is set for a couple of other top prospects to announce this week. Sumter defensive end Montague Rames on Saturday. Rames has a short list of USC, Georgia, NC State, Michigan, Alabama. He's not taken any officials. His unofficials included USC, NC State, and Alabama among his finalists. He has by far visited USC more than any of the other schools he's been considering. His most recent visit was June 4th to watch camp and visit with the coaches. Also, on Sunday, you have got Marquis Anderson of Hyattsville, Maryland, announcing, as well as Oluwatosin Babalota and wide receiver Carmelo Taylor also announcing on Sunday. Now, Anderson is choosing from USC, Clemson, North Carolina, LSU. Those are his 4 officials. He also visited USC in early April for the spring game. Between USC and Clemson, the Gamecocks seem to have made the stronger effort for Anderson, appeared to be in better shape for him than the Tigers. He also visited North Carolina unofficially in April. He'll announce at a celebration dinner in Spartanburg at 3 o'clock. And Taylor has USC, Virginia Tech, Penn State, West Virginia, and Maryland as his finalists. He took June officials to USC, Virginia Tech, Penn State. He also camped at USC in June and took an unofficial visit to Virginia Tech. He's also a standout sprinter. Clemson defensive end target Hunter Osborne of Trussville, Alabama, set his commitment announcement date for August 1st. He named his Final 4 as Clemson, Tennessee, Texas, and Alabama. Took his official visit to Clemson the weekend of June 3rd. He also made officials to Tennessee and Texas. He's not among the prospects who have said they'll be at Clemson's cookout tonight. So that could be an indication of maybe a little bit of a turning away there. Clemson target center Connor Liu has set August 5th for his announcement. He has the Tigers, Auburn, Georgia, and Miami as his Final 4, visited all 4 in June. Clemson target running back Christopher Johnson plans to visit Ole Miss on Saturday. He made an unofficial visit to Clemson June 9th, and Miami and Alabama are the other 2 on his short list. He's looking at a December announcement. He wants to take some official visits during the season. Daniel, cornerback and safety, Myson Kelly, going to Florida Wednesday, stay over for an unofficial visit. Clemson is also showing interest and may eventually step up with an offer. He has offers from East Tennessee State, Tulane, Troy, and Marshall. Back to basketball for a moment. St. Bonaventure offered 6'8" Columbia native Colin Murray Boyles. USC is also among the offers for the former AC Flora forward who will be attending school in Utah this season. Baseball, USC picked up a commitment from shortstop outfielder Roddy Rodriguez, 6 feet 190 of Statesboro, Georgia. He's a native of Albany, Georgia. Clemson landed a commitment from left-hander, first baseman, outfielder Jackson Cole of Boiling Springs. And also, we have a few more notes, including another Clemson baseball commitment to tell you about. And we'll do that here in just a second, as soon as I get my hands and eyes on it. Clemson baseball has been very hot here of late with a combination of the decommits from Michigan, the transfers, and then some other commitments the Tigers have picked up. So, continuing here, 2024 offensive tackle Blake Franks of Greenville was offered today by Alabama after attending a camp. Clemson offered cornerback Shelton Lewis of Stockbridge, Georgia. He's a former Pittsburgh commitment. I think he's one who is in for the camp, for the cookout tonight, and Clemson has offered him. The other commitment for Clemson in baseball, 2025 outfielder Logan Struck, S-T-R-U-K, from Oceanside Collegiate down in Mount Pleasant. He committed to Clemson for the 2025 class. And that is what we've got for you tonight in recruiting. So a lot of things happening here on this Monday, as we've got just this week of an open live recruiting period. It goes dead again Sunday night, Monday morning, and then it's dead for a month so they can focus on their own teams. I like that part of the recruiting calendar. I like since they moved everything to the summer. You know, they've taken June, made it a heavy visitation month. They've taken July and made it an off month for the most part. And then once preseason practice starts, you know, coaches can concentrate on their teams and their current players, which is what they need to do.
Absolutely. Did we get our invitation to the cookout, or was that lost in the mail?
It was lost in the mail.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I think they didn't even put a stamp on it. I'm not even sure it made it to the mail, you know. Interesting
It
that
just
they
sounds
would
like
have,
a lot of fun.
Well,
Yeah,
it's interesting, though, that Clemson would have this on a Monday night. I mean, a work night.
That's kind of odd.
And you've got, like, Georgia schools are starting practice. It's going to be a little more difficult for their players to get in. But I guess Dabo Swinney wanted to get it done so they can turn their attention back to their preseason preparation for the start of practice. All right, we'll be back with more Sports Talk after this break. Sports Talk Media Network.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Not cooling down much this evening. Low dips to just 76. Tomorrow, much like today, with a high of 92 to go with a lot of humidity. It'll be a mix of sunshine and clouds and a 20% chance of rain. Hot and dry until Friday, with highs in the mid to upper 90s. Friday, we get back to those afternoon and evening shower expectations. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
You've waited to start the big project at your home. Wait no more. All Southern Construction is the local family-owned and operated group to make your dream a reality. We do home additions, sunrooms, decks, and porches. We can also do shingle or metal roofing, and our work is guaranteed. Whether it's a repair or a brand new addition, All Southern Construction will be with you from start to finish. Online, find us at allsouthernconstruction.com or give us a call at 206-4816. That's 206-4816.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. The Biden administration on Monday announced plans to replant trees on millions of acres of burned and dead woodlands as officials struggle to counter the increasing toll on the nation's forests from wildfires and insects. Destructive fires in recent years that burned too hot for forests to quickly regrow have far outpaced the government's capacity to replant trees. That's created a backlog of 4.1 million acres in need of replanting. Thousands of people arguing the abortion issue surrounded the Indiana State House and filled its corridors Monday as state lawmakers began consideration of a Republican proposal to ban nearly all abortions in the state, and Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris denounced the effort. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 90 points, the Nasdaq dropped 51. More details at srnnews.com.
If you're an avid shooter or you're new to shooting, Shooter's Choice is your paradise. A firearms specialty store with all types of firearms, ammunition, accessories, AR platform rifles, shotguns, hunting rifles, and much more. Shooter's Choice has the largest and best selection of firearms in the area. Shooter's Choice is the oldest, the most professional firearms dealer in the Midlands. They've served us for more than 30 years. Family owned, they've never let themselves lose that hometown feel. You go into Shooter's Choice, you'll get experts who hunt and shoot. It's not like some big box store. Their staff has decades of experience. You just won't get this anywhere else. From the classics to the newest cutting-edge products anywhere in the firearms world, they buy, sell, and trade firearms. They have an indoor firing range for handguns and hunting rifles. If you don't want to spend the gas money, hop on ShootersChoiceSC.com and shop online 24/7. Whatever you choose, Shooter's Choice will make it easy on you. In West Columbia at 944 Sunset Boulevard or online, ShootersChoiceSC.com. Make it your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
When you're a military veteran with over 40,000 organizations trying to help you, it can be hard to find the right information. That's why AARP brings together valuable resources to help you navigate your options. AARP.org/veterans. With the free veteran employment and fraud prevention resources, caregiving tools and access to discounts, AARP, on a mission to support veterans. Visit AARP.org/veterans today.
gas prices, grocery prices, inflation has hit us all, and it's caused the Fed to raise interest rates. As a result, after historically low mortgage rates for what seemed like forever, interest rates for a mortgage have jumped in recent months. Fran Halloran here. Let me make something clear to you. Mortgage rates are rising. They may continue to rise as the Fed tries to get a grip on inflation. What hasn't changed is the incredible customer service you'll get from Greg McCoy and Simplified Mortgage Solutions. Greg can't control interest rates. He can, however, control fees. With rates on the rise, now more than ever, you need to know you're getting the very best deal. Greg will make sure of that. He's more than just a mortgage guy. Greg McCoy is your trusted advisor. You might be surprised to learn how much Simplified Mortgage and Greg McCoy can do to help you with your biggest financial investment. Not sure? Have questions? Give Greg a call at Simplified Mortgage, 803-722-6044, or find him online at simplifiedmortgagesc.com. Greg McCoy, NMLS 119871.
Hi, honey. I am so excited about finally taking our vacation out of the country.
Me too. We've waited 2 years for this.
But we still have plenty to do before we leave for our trip.
You're right. The travel agent said we have to have negative COVID tests.
Lucky for us, we have True Pharmacy. They can take care of all of our COVID needs.
They do travel testing too?
Yes. Isn't it great to know we have such a great pharmacy to take care of us?
True Pharmacy, 2 locations, Charleston Highway in West Columbia and Divine Street in Columbia.
A couple of other quick recruiting notes. 247 Sports People reporting that the player who was just offered by Clemson tonight at the cookout, cornerback Shelton Lewis, has got a August the 8th commitment announcement date, and he's down to Clemson and North Carolina. He took an official visit to North Carolina in June, took this visit to Clemson today. He'd been to Clemson previously, and August the 8th, his commitment announcement. And defensive end Nicholas Harbor of Washington, D.C.'s big-timer, plans to attend the USC cookout Friday, then stay over until Saturday on an unofficial visit, according to Hale McGranahan of the Big Spur. He also has Michigan, Southern Cal, Miami, Maryland, Georgia, and LSU on his short list. Okay? And if we see anything else interesting in the recruiting world, we'll share that with you before we sign off tonight. Let's talk some baseball. Let's talk some Fireflies baseball here on Sports Talk for a couple of minutes as the Fireflies continue to be one of the big stories of the second half of the minor league baseball season, because they've gone from the outhouse to, they can see the penthouse from where they are in the Carolina League. We welcome in John Kosas, the voice of the Fireflies, to Sports Talk, a team that is 14-9 and just a half game out of first place in the South Division. And talking playoffs. Are we talking playoffs? We're talking playoffs, aren't we?
Playoffs. Yeah, I love that. It's wild to consider, Phil, because I remember we were talking about it a couple weeks ago, and we were not quoting that famous interview. We were talking about what the Fireflies were doing to develop their young guys. And, Tony Pena Jr. and John Habian, as well as Jesus Asuaje, have something figured out, because these guys have responded in a really, really good way. And obviously the 14-9 start speaks for itself. Unfortunate we couldn't finish the game on Sunday. It was scoreless in the bottom of the fourth inning. Columbia had Omar Florentino on, I can't remember if it was first or second base, with 1 out. So that was the go-ahead run. 9 outs away from becoming an official game, but that game will not be made up. It was officially canceled. So we'll have some type of half-game discrepancy between Kannapolis and Columbia for the remainder of the second half.
Yeah, having to deal with those storms, of course, practically every day. So got to believe, though, now these guys, are they compare them to the first half? I mean, did all the losing get to them at all in the first half? And could you see them with their heads down and their shoulders slumping, and now all of a sudden they got their chest out and the heads up and the shoulders are back and they feel like a bunch of winners?
Yeah, River Tom was talking to me the other day, and he said that behind some closed doors, they had a conversation, and some of the higher-ups basically were just saying, we know you're better than this, guys. You can perform better. We've seen it in small glimpses. We know you can do it over an extended stretch of time. And he said that kind of confidence got to them. I don't know if they were ever hanging their head down, particularly because by the end of the first half, we were looking at a group that was almost entirely different from the start of the season, right? Luis Avila, one of the guys who have been here the entire season, as well as Luis Barroso, and outside of that, Carter Jensen, maybe. We only have 4 or 5 mainstays of the Columbia Fireflies roster. So I think a lot of it's just the guys that came in near the end of the first half got a clean slate, and they were able to kind of roll with some of that momentum.
All right, so what is the deal now moving forward as we approach the 1st of August? What does it look like as far as the playoffs, how things work in the minor leagues, in the Carolina leagues, related to the end of the regular season and into the playoffs?
Well, I think kind of the big thing to look at is that Columbia plays 12 games with Kannapolis over the course of the next 3 weeks. So that's really going to play a big deal in what happens. It's kind of an interesting wrinkle with Myrtle Beach only being a half game behind the Fireflies as well. If Myrtle Beach wins the second half, it no longer becomes like a best team in the second half type of game. It then takes overall records into account. So the worst case scenario for the Columbia Fireflies is actually if Myrtle Beach wins the second half, Columbia's, I think the last time I looked, it was something like 26 games back of Charleston as opposed to 3 games in front of Charleston. So we want to root against Myrtle Beach for the rest of the season. And hopefully Columbia can take command of that series versus Kannapolis starting tomorrow because I think that's going to play a really big factor in the remainder of this season.
John, you talked about trying to track down Kannapolis here in the second half of the season. And one thing, it appears they have a very power-laden type team. They lead your side of the coin in terms of home runs with 82 already this season in 90 games. Your team has hit just 59 in 89 games. So is the Kannapolis Park, never have been there, is it set up for home runs, or they just have a bunch of power guys on that team, whereas maybe Sangre Park is not quite the home run friendly park that the Kannapolis has when they play home games?
So I think it's partially just kind of how the White Sox construct their farm teams. You're talking about the same team that traded for Eloy Jimenez, the same team that signed Luis Robert, and picks all of these guys who immediately have power tools but have to develop that hit tool in the minors. So a lot of times, at least in my experience in minor league baseball, when I see a Chicago White Sox team, there are 3 or 4 guys in a lineup that when they hit the ball, it goes a long way, but they might have that 180 batting average, and that's what the White Sox try and work on them with during their 4 or 5 years in the minors before they hit the majors. So Atrium Health Ballpark, not an incredibly friendly home run park, but it is a bit smaller than Segre Park, so maybe that plays a factor. But we got them once at home and once on the road, so maybe after those 2 series we can compare and contrast maybe the direction the Atrium Health Ballpark faces might have it. It's kind of like Myrtle Beach. Their outfield fence actually is like between the beach and home plate, and because they're within a half mile from the beach, a lot of home runs get knocked down from the wind coming off the ocean.
It's a fascinating point you bring up because I looked at their team batting average and it's 10th in the league at 224. So they lead the league in home runs, but obviously they don't always, it's either feast or famine for them. So when the big league clubs look at and take Chicago, for instance, how do they start trying to work out maybe hitting so many home runs versus also, hey guys, we need you to get on base as well?
I think it's all about the major league team's philosophy and almost what you're trying to do with kind of who you have at the top of the system. So for the White Sox, their philosophy in the majors, they've got Moncada, they've got Jimenez, they have a lot of guys who can hit 300 or 320, which is rare in today's game. And they're looking for someone who could be a 30 home run a year type guy to put behind all those guys in the order. So Chicago's trying to catch that lightning in a bottle, get the one really good power hitter to be the center of their lineup like Nelson Cruz was in their division rival Minnesota's lineup for a handful of years. And if they do that, the White Sox are going to be a dangerous team. That's kind of what they're missing right now. So I think it's kind of just drafting to what you need for your major league team. and we're just seeing it a couple of years before it makes it up to the top.
All right, John, so you guys are off today, back in action on the road tomorrow, and then coming back home for a nice home stand when you've got a lot of big things planned.
Yeah, we've got Paw Patrol night on that Saturday, and I know I have two younger brothers, one's 7 and one's 13. The 13-year-old may not admit publicly that he's super into Paw Patrol, but I know of all the shows that the 7-year-old likes to watch, the 13-year-old would prefer Paw Patrol over some of the other ones. And then, of course, I mean, even as an adult, it's a cartoon with a bunch of dogs who are, police officer, firefighter, things like that. Yeah, that's kind of a cool concept you can root behind when you're bringing the kids to the ballpark, just something that's enjoyable for both you and your child while you're going to watch the Columbia Fireflies play.
All right, sure. Well, listen, hope the weather gives you guys a break and you can get these games in, get some more W's and move towards the playoffs, and we'll talk to you again next week. We thank you as always.
Sounds perfect, and fingers crossed on that weather. That's our biggest hindrance right now, right?
Every afternoon, man, big storm was cooking up as I came downtown this afternoon. I always go by the backside of the ballpark, heading to the studio, so I know it was forming over your stadium, but you guys are out of town, so no issues tonight. Thank you, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds perfect. Have a good one, guys.
All right, buddy.
Appreciate
John
it, John.
Kosis, voice of the Fireflies here on Sports Talk. We'll be back to hear from, a football coach here on Sports Talk coming up next.
Score a touchdown with Founders Federal Credit Union. With services like Founders Online and the Founders app, you'll enjoy all the perks of a big bank with local personalized service. Not a member? Joining Founders Federal Credit Union is easy. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership. Relax with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
We understand how important it is to have transportation you can rely on. So no matter what the road ahead brings, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
In Irmo, call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171.
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolinas grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolinas peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
Catch up on some of these SEC and ACC football coaches for a moment. Here is some Kirby Smart from the SEC media days. Of course, he defending national champion, having to deal with having the juices flowing and the focus and the want to that the previous year's team had to win the national championship. Here's Kirby talking about how he's dealing with all that.
You know, we started this thing off last year with the quote, success comes to those who are too busy to be looking for it. Well, we embraced that last year, and guess what? That doesn't change. So for our team, it's embedded in what we do. You know, we didn't build this program on hoping for one-year wonders or hoping for one opportunity. We built the program to be sustained, and you sustain it by what you do every single day. And this program was built to be here for a long time, and we have an unbelievable footprint with which we get to recruit. So the 5-hour radius of Athens, Georgia gives us a chance to be around some of the best football student athletes there are in the country. So we'll continue to recruit those, develop those, also going nationally. But the team that we have coming back, I've been around, done the rounds this morning. I'll bet you at least 50 people have asked me the question. So feel free when we open up for questions to ask me the concern there is for complacency. That does not concern me in the least, because to be complacent, You have to have done something and achieved something. The men on this team for this season have not done that. They have not. We had 15 players that are now gone to NFL camps or draft picks. They're gone. And we have some returning players, but they're hungry as ever. People have asked the question, how does it feel to be hunted? We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. I can promise you that. The hunting that we do will be done from us going the other direction. It's not something we're going to sit back and be passive about. Our guys have asked questions, and we've done a lot of studies on how the mighty have fallen. So we have skull sessions. We have 15-minute meetings, 20-minute meetings in breakout groups, and we've actually taught how the mighty have fallen. I'm talking about in business. I'm talking about in sports. I'm talking about in history. So you learn from the mistakes of others, and for us, it really steers down to one cultural belief that we have a connection that's greater than our opponent. We're all going to be tough. We're all going to be physical in the SEC, but can we be better connected together? Can we have 1 + 1 = 3? Because for us, 1 + 1 = 3 means we get more together than we do apart. And this team believes that. I'm excited about this team because there's a lot of opportunity. People say, do you have the talent? Do you have enough talent within your program? We've got plenty of talent. What we lack right now is experience. That's our job as coaches, to put those guys in a position to be successful and react in a calm manner and have the experience they need to go play well against Oregon. That game will help set us up for our SEC gauntlet that we have coming up after that.
Lance McGurley, Oconee News. You said after the spring game that this team needed to find its own identity. And with fall camp just around the corner, do you have any indication of what this team's identity might be heading into this upcoming season?
Yeah, hungry. I talked about it earlier. I mean, there's a hunger among this group that a lot of guys want to prove that they can replace the other guy. And they don't want to be the other guy. They want to be the next guy. And you look across the board, we had some really high-profile players, really on defense and offense, when you count the backs and the receivers, that we have to replace those guys. And the hunger comes from the opportunity the talented players behind them have. And I'm excited. That's why complacency is something that happens to people that don't look what's going on. We don't have that problem. There's not a day that we don't wake up and think, what can we do better to make our program better? And our players are doing that right now.
All right, Kirby Smart. I'm trying to make sure that his guys stay focused. He stays focused. His coaches stay focused on the task at hand, and that is defending the national championship. But again, these guys, many of them didn't have much to do with it. It's their team now. Same approach that Dabo Swinney took with his team after winning a national championship. It's a new team. It's a new year. You have to approach it that way. Now, the man who would like to knock Dabo Swinney further off the perch, remember, he's not on the perch. He didn't win the championship in the ACC last year. Pittsburgh did. But a guy who'd like to knock him further down the perch is Dave Doeren at NC State. Of course, they did beat Clemson last season. Tigers will host NC State October 1st. Here's Doeren from the ACC kickoff, talking first about why he likes the new plan for the 3-5-5 scheduling. Then he goes into some comments about what his team needs to become an ACC champion.
I was one of probably many coaches in our side of the division, as a player, and just use Isaiah as an example. He's a Virginia native, and we're going to play the schools from Virginia twice every 12 years. So he'll get to play them one time, maybe, in his career, and for us, we play Duke one every 6 years, and I just don't like that cycle of playing other teams in your league, particularly teams that are close that you recruit against, where players are going to be on your team and would like to go play back against those other teams, So on top of that, I think the best two teams should play each other for the championship game. I think that's how it ought to end up, and it ought to be settled on the grass. Even if it's a rematch, it ought to be settled on the grass, And so I like the dynamics of that. I'm excited about it and excited to get to play the other teams more often. I just think that's good for the television. It's good for the fans, and it's really good for the players.
What gets this team over the hump to win an ACC championship?
It's another play. I think anytime we lost 2 games last year that kept us out of that game to win it, and it's one more play that you have to make. That's it, and whether it's a defensive play, an offensive play, or a special teams play, we lost 2 one-possession games, and had we won either one of those, Wake Forest game, we recover an onside kick right on the 10-yard mark, and replay says we didn't get it. we make that play, then we probably go score and win that game. Miami game, there were several plays that prevented us from winning. And if any of those plays changed, we win that game. So it's really no different than how we beat Clemson. Devin threw a pass to Devin Carter in the corner of the end zone, and we made a play. And that's how we won that game. UNC game, Emeka makes a play from Devin. Chris makes an onside kick recovery, Chris Dunn. Emeka makes another play. And that's how you win football games. There's a lot of mistakes that happen on both sides. At the end, it's going to come down to one player making sometimes a routine play that changes the outcome of the game. And so for us, it's just doing that repetitively. You have to do it, in every game you play in the conference.
All right, there's Doran. And, a lot of people like NC State, Chris. They like the quarterback.
Right.
They like some of the other pieces that they have on that team, but primarily the quarterback, who's a very good player. So they are viewed as the team this year in the last year of the division play to be the one that could contest Clemson the closest in that division. But then again, who saw Wake Forest rising up last year, and who saw Pitt coming up last year the way they did? So he's going to have a pretty good team, though. He's got to come to Clemson and see what the Tigers can do with that.
Clemson never loses at home in conference, and that's going to be the big, big deal. Can they beat Clemson at home and then turn around the next week and host Florida State? And if let's assume for a moment they actually pull off that upset, which I don't think they will, but let's play along for a moment. They were to beat Clemson and then turn around. How good is Florida State going to be? They've got them the next week at home. So NC State's got an October that if they're going to be the team, they've got to take care of business in that month. But I just don't see them going to Clemson, especially after beating them last year in double overtime at home. I just don't see them going into Clemson to win.
That was a heck of a ball game, too, up in Raleigh.
Yeah.
One more recruiting note just popping out. The Gamecocks have offered in basketball 6'2" Elijah Crawford from Legacy Early College in Greenville. He also has Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, New Mexico State on his offer list. Again, that's in the 2024 class. Let's go to Sam in Charleston before we run out of time tonight. Sam, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
We're great. Thank you.
Hey, I want to have a long discussion about this year's CFC basketball team.
Well, it's got to be short because we're short on time.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I gave you little snippets, but I just heard today some breaking news. Coach Beck Kelsey is having his the fall schedule. Who we playing is the question, and what time, and who's in the roster.
Well, I don't know that they've released their schedule yet, okay? But we'll let you know as soon as it comes out what the schedule is going to be. I don't know that they've got the complete basketball schedule for next season together. Yes, I checked their website. They have last year's schedule when they went 17 and 15 and 8 and 10 in conference play. I'm sure he's expecting to be much better. As far as the roster goes, he's put together a nice roster. Jordan Crawford, 6'2". Evan Kilminster, 6'1". Ryan Smith, 6'2". Dalton Boland, 6'4". Raekwon Horton, 6'6", who's a South Carolina kid who went down to or up to Vermont Academy, but he's out of the Sumter area. Ante Brozovic, who's 6'10", from Croatia. Ryan Larson, 6'1". And Pat Robinson, the third, who's 6'3". Jalen Scott, 6'5", from out in Texas. Ben Burnham, 6'7", from Fort Mill. Jack Miller, 5'11". Babacar Faye from Senegal, 6'8". Charles Lampton, who's 6'11", from Texas. Dylan Ritter, 6'1". And Adam Comer, who is 6'9", from Broome High School. So that's the roster. And it looks on paper to me, Pat, pretty good.
Couple quick names to remember as well. Remember last year you had all CAA freshman Rain Smith, who came over from the Australia Center of Excellence. Well, this year they add freshman guard Evan Kilminster, who comes from that same place. The two of them had played together for a number of years, very highly regarded prospects out of Australia. So you may not have had much publicity or know much about them from the high school ranks here in America, but Evan Kilminster and Rain Smith are two names to remember if you're a Cougar fan that will most likely be helping lead that team either to success or kind of where they were last year.
All right. Thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate the phone call. A couple of other quick notes to leave you with. Jason Benetti is leaving ESPN to go to Fox as their number 2 college football broadcaster, teaming with Brock Heward. I think Jason Benetti is fantastic.
He's very good.
Mm-hmm.
He is really very good. Yeah, he's talented. I don't know so much about Heward, but yeah. Benetti is really solid.
And David Hale from is he ESPN?
Yes.
He's just on Twitter a lot, but I guess he's ESPN. He had this tweet: ACC is 28-65 versus other Power 5 leagues since 2018, and 12 of those wins are by Clemson. Rest of the league is 16-62. 5 ACC teams are 0 for the other Power 5 leagues, including Miami 0-6, Florida State 0-6, and Virginia Tech 0-6. Chew on that. Huh? What does that tell you about the league? I mean, they got to pull themselves up by the bootstraps here.
Well, we've always said it's Clemson and everybody else, and Tigers are doing their part. They need some help, though.
And all this goes back to TV negotiations and money deals and expansion and all that kind of stuff. And are you worth it to the TV networks? We'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here,